Hey everybody, welcome. Today I'm asking the question, do you actually have a shoulder? And you're probably sitting there going, Tate, that's a dumb question. Of course I have a shoulder. It's here, it's been with me my whole life, right? But what I'm asking is, does your shoulder actually have the range of motion needed or the prerequisite range of motion to perform the actions that you require of it in your daily life? For example, you're in CrossFit and you're taking heavy weight, taking it over your head, or you're in yoga and you're doing handstands, or you're in downward facing dog, right? And you don't have the range of motion needed to get that weight over your head or to come up into handstand. Your shoulder just doesn't go that far without your body overcompensating, right? If your shoulder doesn't have the range of motion needed, other joints in your body are going to have to take on the role of a shoulder, right? So for example, as I take my arm up into flexion, if my lower ribs have to flare out to get my arm up here, right, to get it all the way up by my ear, and I have to be here, you can see it better here, right? My thoracolumbar junction, where my lumbar meets my upper back, right? My thoracic meets my lumbar. That then becomes a shoulder. Not a very good shoulder. Do we want it to be a shoulder? No, because it wasn't designed to be a shoulder. Your shoulder was designed to be a shoulder. So if you keep your lower ribs in and you can only get your arm up to here, should you be loading your arms over your head? No. You should. I would recommend not doing that, because the only way you can do that is by creating other shoulders in your body, right? And we don't want other shoulders in your body because it's not designed to have other shoulders in your body. It's got two shoulders for a reason, right? So there's two tests I do. One, we work through controlled articular rotations, or CARs. What they're going to look like is shoulder circles, but they're not shoulder circles. What you're trying to do is you're moving in a joint. When you have two bones together, you have a capsule around the joint. Think like a compression sleeve, right? Or it's March Madness time, so if you're thinking you're watching the basketball games and you see those shooters with the shooter sleeve over their elbow, same kind of thing, right? And if there's not enough space in that joint, in that capsule, it's really hard to move the bones, right? So the controlled articular rotations allow us to figure out, do we actually have space in there? And there's another one we'll do here in a second. Like, it's more of a capsular CARs, which I'll get there. Don't even worry about it. Don't even remember any of these words. Just know that we're going to move our shoulder. We're trying not to move our body, right? So the way we stand, your rib cage is going to want to move. Your torso is going to want to move. Your hips are going to want to move. I'm going to try to tell you, keep everything as still as possible. Try not to cheat at all. This is just a test to figure out, do you have a shoulder? Right, so I'm going to take my inner arm. I'm going to rotate it forward. So my humerus is rotating forward, palm facing forward. And then I'm going to take it into adduction, right? Or just bring the arm across the body, right? You're squeezing in. Right? If you felt like your torso had to come here to get your arm across, right? Your torso is now becoming your rib cage is becoming a shoulder. Stay here and just bring your arm across. And then reach your arm up toward the ceiling until you feel a hard stop. If you stop here, right? Stop here. Don't let the ribs flare out to get the arm up to here. So as you reach up, reach up. And then once you hit that hard stop in flexion, turn your palm out toward the side. Right, I like to actually take my hand to my ribs just to remind myself, don't move. And then here, this is where it gets kind of tricky. As I take my arm back, my torso is going to want to rotate with it. I'm going to try to keep facing forward, chest forward, right? I'm going to turn my palm up toward the ceiling as I keep reaching back. You can see I already started to lean a little bit to the left, right? Because I wanted to compensate for this range of motion. I want my palm to turn up, reach back, and then bring the arm down by the side. Now my palm is still facing backwards. I'm just going to reverse it. Palm up. Right, turn it out. Continue reaching up toward the ceiling until you feel a hard stop. Once you hit that stop, stop. And then rotate the palm up toward the ceiling as you take the arm across the body. Try not to twist the torso. And then bring the arm down by the side. I do this every day. I wouldn't just do it once. I would do it multiple times, take it from different angles. If I'm looking at somebody going, like, where are they compensating for the lack of range of motion in their shoulder? So you can kind of take yourself, you can film yourself, right? You can turn to the side, you can be here, you can face backwards, right? But I do that about 3, 4, 5, 6 times every day. I do it for actually most joints in my body. I move them through, because if you don't use it, you lose it, right? That's just how range of motion is. So I'll turn to the side so we can do the left side together, right? But I'm going to take my inner humerus, the inner bicep, and rotate it forward so the palm is facing forward. Take my arm across my body. I'm trying not to let my torso leave, so I'm just going to bring my hands to my ribs, just remind myself, don't let the torso move, don't let the hips move, don't let my body move. I'm just moving my shoulder, right? And then I'm just going to continue lifting the arm up toward the ceiling until I hear hard stop. If my arm is here, probably shouldn't be doing any right handstands. I probably should. Downward facing dog is going to need to be adjusted a little bit. And I probably shouldn't be lifting weights over my head, right? But I'm just going to continue up until I hear that stop. Once I hit that stop, I'm going to turn my palm out toward the ceiling. Right now, as we reach back, the body's going to want to compensate. It's going to want to turn. So try not to let it turn. Reach back. As you reach back, turn the palm up toward the ceiling. And then bring your arm down by your side. Now just reverse it, right? Palm up. Turn the palm out. reach the arm up toward the ceiling. And then once you hit that stop, turn the palm up toward the ceiling as you take the arm across the body and then bring it down by your side. All right, again, repeat that as many times as you want. It's going to be crunchy at the first many few times you do it. That's just stuff running into stuff. I would say if it lasts long term, something we need to look at, but if it's just the first couple times, first few weeks, you're moving your shoulder and you feel that crunch, right, with no pain, right, crunching and popping with no pain, then it's not something to be worried about. The second one is more of like I talked about the capsule, right? And in the shoulders and in the hips, the capsule direction is axial rotation, right? So the way to look at the shoulder, right, to determine whether you have enough internal rotation which is a very key, because if you don't have enough internal rotation, you probably don't have enough extension, right? This just kind of plays hand in hand. So you take your arm out to the side, elbow in line with the shoulder. I'm not going to move my elbow up and down. I'm going to try to keep my elbow in line with my shoulder. And then I'm going to make a fist. Now the shoulders are going to want to roll forward. So if I face you this way, the shoulders are going to want to do this. Try not to do this, right? This is your body compensating for range of motion. Right, so I'm going to take my elbow out to the side. I'm trying not to move the elbow. And I'm just going to take my fist and try to put my knuckles down towards the floor. And if I take this, right, without moving my torso with me and I just come to here, we got some work to do. Right, that's good. It means we know what we need to work on. So you just take it, right, fist down towards the floor. Try not to drop the elbow. Try not to roll the shoulders forward. Right, bring it down. And then slowly bring it up. This should feel like work, right? And then fist down, fist up. One more time, fist down, fist up. Do that on both sides, right? And if you struggle, right, if you hit the struggle bus right about here, which most people do, right, and you're not trying to crank your fist down, you're trying to keep everything straight. Because if I crank my fist, I can go further. If I roll my shoulder forward, I got all this internal rotation. No, I don't. This is my upper back rolling. This is my scapula elevating to create the internal rotation, right? So I'm going to show my favorite way to create more range of motion in the shoulder. So there's two ways to do it, to create range of motion. There's passive range of motion and there's active range of motion, right? There's strength-based range of motion. Quickest way to more range of motion, right? Science is behind it. You can't really argue with me on it. You need passive range of motion, but the quickest way to build range of motion and to have your nervous system trust you and to keep that range of motion is through strength, right? Is through strength. And the safest way to create more range of motion is through strength, right? So we'll come down on your mat, we'll come into a seat, and I'm going to show you my favorite way to create more range of motion in the shoulder. Okay, so come into Dandasana. So come into staff pose, or think like you're setting up for an L-sit, right? If you're in the fitness world and you don't know what the heck Dandasana is, right? Or staff pose. So come into it, legs long, shoulders over hips. If you have a yoga block, or if you have a pillow or a bolster nearby, just take it off to the right a little bit. It's going to be a pillow here. All right, and then take your right arm out to the right. Elbow in line with the shoulder, fist up toward the ceiling. Right, so it's like those hand signals that we had to use to pass our driver's test, which I don't know if this means right or left or stop. I have no idea. I can't remember that far back. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep that. And then I'm just going to lean onto the right side, bring my right elbow to the floor. And then from here, I'm just going to shift my body so I can get my back of the right shoulder on the floor, take my pillow right underneath my right ear. Right, so it's a nice pillow. It's called a sleeper stretch, right? My legs are in line with my hips. They're stacked with each other, but I'm creating a V shape between my feet and my shoulders. When I look at my elbow, I don't want my elbow necessarily straight out from the shoulder, right? That's gonna require a lot more range of motion. What I actually want is just my elbow slightly down of my shoulder, like an inch or two. And then I'm gonna take my right pointer finger and point it up toward the ceiling. Right, the back of my right armpit's gonna stay on the floor. And then I'm just gonna rotate my fist so my pointer finger is now pointing at my belly button, right? Pointing at my belly button. And then once it's there, I'm just going to recreate my fist, take my left hand to my right wrist, and I'm just going to press down until I feel a hard stop. But I'm not going to let the back of my right shoulder, right armpit, to lift off the floor. I'm not going to let it go here. I want to keep it flat. So I'm just going to come down to a hard stop, and then I'm just going to pause here, right? It takes about 90 seconds to 2 minutes to activate the cells, right? And then when the cells are active, they're able to potentially be changed, right? You can create some biological change. So for this video, I'm not going to stay here for 90 seconds to a minute, right? Because then you just sit here watching me just stretch myself, and I don't really care for that. Or no, you don't really care for that. So 90 seconds to 2 minutes, you're holding it here. But what you're trying to hold it here is passive, right? So we start passively, right? Because we need passive range of motion. Passive range of motion is really great. But for safe, functional range of motion, we need there to be strength. So after about 90 seconds to 2 minutes, I'm going to crank this, I'm going to turn some strength on. All right, so how is this going to work? Right, I'm just going to try to sit here, calm the body, allow my body to passively stretch. Right, I'm going to calm the nervous system by breathing in for a count of 4, breathing out for a count of 8. Right, so I inhale for 4, exhale for 8. The nervous system is your number one block of how far you can actually go. Right, at what your range of motion stops at. So we want to calm it, kind of trick it a little bit. We're trying to play games with it a little bit to allow us to get further. And then once we're further, we're going to give that nervous system feedback and trust through strength. So just pause here. Okay, fast forward, think it's been about 90 seconds, right? 90 seconds, 2 minutes. And then I'm going to keep my left hand where it's at, but 20% of my capacity, I'm going to press my right arm back into my left hand. Right, so instead of being here, I'm going to try to press my arm back into my hand, but I'm not going to let it move. And then I'm going to get it to about 40% of capacity. Right? I may be starting to shake. Shaking just means that your body and your nervous system doesn't have control in this end range. It's a normal thing. That's why we're doing what we're doing, right? And then get this arm up to about 60%. As you get up to about 60%, pause, and then get the whole body irradiating to about 60%. So you're squeezing your quads, your belly's drawing in, your biceps are flexing, your toes are spreading, fingers may be spreading on this left hand. You're just trying to use that energy to send to your right arm, to bump your right arm to about 80% capacity now. All right, then from 80 as close to 100 as you can get safely. Right, so you're getting it as close to 100 as possible. Should only be able to hold this about 10-15 seconds. Anything longer than about 10-15 seconds, you're not pressing hard enough. Right, so we're not losing end range of motion. What we're doing is we're building strength in this end range. All right, we're sending to the feedback to the brain. Hey, we got some strength here. You can trust us. We want to be in this position. Right, so just for 3, 2, 1, hold your left hand where it's at. And then with your right hand, right, this is called a rails contraction, right? I'm trying to now pull my right fist down towards the floor, right? Like I'm arm wrestling a ghost. I'm trying to pin them to the floor, but I'm not moving my left hand so I can see, did I just create more range of motion? I did, right? You may not the first time you do this, but right, it's the action, not the result. It's like I'm cranking the boat throttle, 100% action. I'm just pulling. 10 seconds, 15 seconds, max hold. Right, so 3, 2, 1, hold my right hand where it's at, take my left hand, and press my right forearm more towards the floor. And you decide, I just went further. Right? Doing it just once is a parlor trick. Doing it once is just tricking the nervous system once to show more. So if you want to go to a party on the weekend and show, look how much more range of motion I can create, right, by adding some strength. It's only going to do it just once, it's just temporary. But if you do this every day, or you do this multiple times a week, right, you start to build lasting functional range of motion. Right, do this as many sets as you can do it. Usually I do about 2 or 3, so I'm going to do it one more time. The second time you hold passively, like I am right now, right, I don't need to hold it as long because the cells are already active. Right, so right now I'm just going to bump it up to 20%, so I'm pressing back. And then I'm going to bump it up to about 40%. And then get it to 60, right? So this is important. Get the whole body squeezing to 60%. Whole body is engaged at 60%. Keep it engaged. Now bump everything to 80%, right? But you're using your energy in your body to send to your right arm. Now as close to 100 as you can take it. Again, 10, 15 seconds max. We're just building strength in the center range, right? You're pushing hard, but with your left hand, you're not letting it move. You're not letting that right arm move. For 3, 2, 1, that rails contraction, right? Pull your right wrist towards the floor. Again, you're arm wrestling the ghost. You're trying to create space between your left hand and your right wrist without moving your left hand. For 3, 2, 1, left hand comes to right wrist. And if this is the last time you're doing it, like your second and final set, you'll just pause for a few breaths. Again, allow the body to just relax. Relax into the stretch and just notice, did you go further? And then slowly back out, come all the way back up to a seat. And then if I was doing this on my own, I would do the second side, right? I would do my left side, right? But for the sake of the videos and just from you, just saving you from having to watch me just stretch myself and feel really good, right? I'm not gonna do the left side. All right, so after I do that, right, sleeper stretch, pales and rails, right, we had the pales contraction, which is I'm pressing the arm back into the hand. We had the rails contraction where I'm pulling the fist down towards the floor, right? What you're doing is you're creating active range of motion on both sides of the joint, right? What I like to do and what I like to show my students is why the heck did we just do that? So what I do is I just have them come up onto their shins, or maybe they're standing tall, right? They're standing tall, and we're gonna work through those arm circles again, right? So I'm gonna take my arm forward, so I'm working through our cars again, right? They're not just arm circles. I'm gonna take my arm across and then reach the arm up toward the ceiling. What people find after they do this, right, is that they actually have more range of motion in their shoulder, and it's actually smoother, right? That crunchiness, right, or the kind of stickiness is kind of diminished a little bit. And then I turn my palm out toward the ceiling, reach back, or turn all to the side and reach back. As I reach back, I turn my palm up toward the ceiling, and then bring my arm down, and then lift up. Palm out, arm up, and then bring it down, right? So that's how we decide whether you have a shoulder. If you don't have a shoulder, pales and rails, right, in that sleeper stretch, right? So I go 90 seconds where I'm holding the sleeper stretch, right, passively. I'm just trying to let the body go. And then about 20%, right, you with the pales contraction, which is the forearm pressing back into the hand, right? I go 20, 40, 60, get the whole body engaged, firing at 60%, and then I bump it up to 80, right? Shaking is normal, right? Shaking is normal. Feeling like you want to get the heck out of that stretch, completely normal. And then I get it as close to 100 as possible. And then after 10, 15 seconds, right, my max hold, I'm just trying to then keep my left hand where it's at and pull my right fist towards the floor. Right, I'm pulling. So now I'm working internal rotation, right? The pales, right, where I'm pressing out, that's strengthening the external rotators. When I'm pulling down, it's strengthening the internal rotators, right? And then you stop in between sets, passively stretch, maybe in a new range of motion. Do it as many times as you'd like, right? And then when you're done, work through those circles again. Work through the arm circles. So what I do is I do the arm circles first, the pales and rails in the sleeper stretch, and then I do arm circles again, right? I do cars again, right? I call them arm circles because that's easier to remember for most people, but they're not arm circles, right? They're controlled articular rotations. We're not just swinging our arm like this. We're moving controlled, and we're just moving the joint, right? So give it a go, right? Find out, do you have a shoulder? And then if you don't have a shoulder, right, pales and rails in the sleeper stretch, right? Let me know what you think, right? Add in the comments whether you agree with me, whether you don't, whether you found this useful, right? So leave it in the comments, and yeah, look forward to it. Thank you.